and doing these events all around the country, for this guy and learning the craft. And the interesting thing, we were talking about personal development, is that, it wasn't just about marketing. The core message, which I loved and still love to this day. And I've become very close friends with this guy, very close friends with him. But the core message is in order to become successful and really step into success, it's not just about another marketing technique. It's about, challenging the aspects of who you are, that figuring out what's holding you back, right? And addressing that and stepping into a bigger future. It's who you become that allows you to build a successful business. And so, I remember there was day 2 of the seminar. This was all about asking for referrals. And so there was a section like, why don't we ask for referrals? Right. And so there were exercises they would do and it became deserving, right? Self-esteem things, deserving things. Cause if you do a good job for somebody, why wouldn't you say, hey, refer business to me? And so you would see these people have these breakdowns and breakthroughs in this environment. And if you were paying attention, you'd be like, oh my God, that's the human condition. That's, we all have that in some degree. It doesn't matter whether or not you're a real estate agent or whatever. We all have those places where it's the thoughts that we have, the conditioning, who we're told we are at an early age, what, that, we're taught who we are. And if we don't challenge that, there's a track that's it. That's what you get. And so I was fascinated with that. And the company had provided different resources. They allow you to go through some personal development seminars, and they had books that they would sell at the events, and you could, as an employee, you could read them. And I just ate a lot of that up. And then 10 years later, I left that company, still was consulting with him, and I was working for my best friend who had like a dating and relationship advice, brand for men and then for women. And in those events and those seminars, we made information products out of, you would hear men get up to the microphone and talk about all the things that they were insecure about, why they wouldn't approach women. And then when we did women would do the same thing. And you would hear things that you would just never believe. You'd see the bodybuilder guy who's ripped getting up to the microphone and talk about how he has more body image issues than anybody else in the room.
Right.
And then with the women's event, you'd see this girl drop dead gorgeous, and she would get to the microphone and say, men don't approach her. And you would just see that the human condition in general is about, there's nobody immune to these things. We all have our individual things. And so it allows you to have more, for me, it allowed me to have more compassion for myself and more compassion for others. And it's this interesting thing that you learn about, human behavior and so it's been an incredible journey, as a result. And so obviously I do the technology, we got all the gear and do all that stuff. And that's interesting. It's very stressful. But for me, I'm much more interested in the transformational aspects of what I do. When we go to a seminar, we see somebody and they're there for the first time, and maybe you meet them at the coffee stand, you're talking to them, and then a year later, you see him again and they're like, oh, hey, what's up? It's like, oh, I took this technique, that I learned here last year, and now I'm doing this. If it's business, I've got this, I've made this much money, I'm doing this. If it was relationship stuff, now I'm in a great relationship, whatever. You get to see the transformation over time of people taking this stuff, which also, I don't know, it just kind of gives you hope for humanity and gives you more faith that if people take this stuff and they use it, it works,
Sounds
so it's
like
been
you're
real
working
neat
with a lot of the same people for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So who are some of the, names that, this is all who are some of the names you work with? Well,
so, so my best friend is a guy by the name of Eben Pagan, and Eben Pagan back in the late 90s, early 2000s started a dating advice brand, called Double Your Dating. And that became the number one selling dating advice brand on the internet for years. He kind of got burnt out on that. And then he went into, business advice. He realized a lot of other information marketers had virtual teams, and he realized there was a lot of opportunity to help people with business advice in the space. And then he became kind of the number one guy in that space.
How many people are going to these seminars?
Oh, anywhere from 300 to like 600-ish at a time for that particular one. Yeah. And this was years ago too. I think we had 2 million guys on the email list back in the early 2000s, which was crazy. Right. And it was difficult to get people into, like, the event thing kind of the attendance, the events I've seen has grown, right, over years. You know, one of the clients we work with, guy by the name of Jeff Walker, he's like the number one guy in the product launch space. We've done a couple of events for him, over 1,000 people. Another guy I work with for years, I was just at his office yesterday, Dean Graziosi. Dean was number one guy in the country selling, real estate advice, basically not for agents, but for people wanting to get into real estate investing. And so I've been working with him for years. He's now partnered up with Tony Robbins. You mentioned Tony. And so we just sold him, a big LED wall. If you've seen any of the pictures of what Tony's doing with this big LED wall with hundreds and hundreds of people behind him, I just sold him that setup, basically a clone of Tony's, but a smaller version of that. And so we're getting that all set up now.